Alastair Preston Reynolds is a British science fiction author. He specialises in dark hard science fiction and space opera. He spent his early years in Cornwall, moved back to Wales before going to Newcastle, where he read physics and astronomy. Afterwards, he earned a PhD from St Andrews, Scotland. In 1991, he moved to Noordwijk in the Netherlands where he met his wife Josette. There, he worked for the European Space Research and Technology Centre until 2004 when he left to pursue writing full-time. He returned to Wales in 2008 and lives near Cardiff. Works: Reynolds wrote his first 4 published science fiction short stories while still a graduate student, in 1989–1991. They appeared in 1990–1992, his first sale being to Attribution. In 1991 Reynolds graduated and moved from Scotland to the Netherlands to work at ESA. He then started spending much of his writing time on a first novel, which eventually turned into Revelation Space, while the few short stories he submitted from 1991–1995 were rejected. This ended in 1995 when his story Birdland 6 was published, which he says marked the beginning of a more serious phase of writing. As of 2011 he has published over 40 shorter works and 9 novels. His works are hard science fiction veiled behind space opera and noir-toned stories, and reflect his professional expertise with physics and astronomy, included by extrapolating future technologies in terms that are consistent, for the most part, with current science. Reynolds has said he prefers to keep the science in his books to what he personally believes will be possible, and he does not believe faster-than-light travel will ever be possible, but that he adopts science he believes will be impossible when it is necessary for the story. Most of Reynolds's novels contain multiple storylines that originally appear to be completely unrelated, but merge later in the story. 5 of his novels and several of his short stories take place within one consistent future universe, usually now called the Revelation Space universe after the first novel published in it, although it was originally developed in short stories for several years before the first novel. Although most characters appear in more than one novel, the works set within this future timeline rarely have the same protagonists twice. Often the protagonists from one work belong to a group that is regarded with suspicion or enmity by the protagonists of another work. While a great deal of science fiction reflects either very optimistic or dystopian visions of the human future, Reynolds's future worlds are notable in that human societies have not departed to either positive or negative extremes, but instead are similar to those of today in terms of moral ambiguity and a mixture of cruelty and decency, corruption and opportunity, despite their technology being dramatically advanced. The Revelation Space series includes 5 novels, 2 novellas, and 8 short stories set over a span of several centuries, spanning approximately 2200 to 4000, although the novels are all set in a 300-year period spanning from 2427 to 2727. In this universe, extraterrestrial sentience exists but is elusive, and interstellar travel is primarily undertaken by a class of vessel called a Lichtthugger which only approaches the speed of light. Fermi's paradox is explained as resulting from the activities of an inorganic alien race referred to by its victims as the inhibitors, which exterminate sentient races if they proceed above a certain level of technology. The trilogy consisting of Revelation Space, Redemption Arc and Absolution Gap deal with humanity coming to the attention of the inhibitors and the resultant war between them. Century Reign takes place in a future universe independent of the Revelation Space universe and has different rules, such as faster-than-light travel being possible through a system of portals similar to wormholes. Century Reign also departs substantially from Reynolds's previous works, both in having a protagonist who is much closer to the perspective of our real world, serving as a proxy for the reader in confronting the unfamiliarity of the advanced science fiction aspects and in having a much more linear storytelling process. Reynolds's previous protagonists started out fully absorbed in the exoticisms of the future setting and his previous Revelation Space works have several interlinked story threads, not necessarily contemporaneous. According to Alastair himself, no sequel will ever be made on Century Reign. Pushing Ice is also a standalone story, with characters from much less distant in the future than in any of his other novels, set into a framework storyline that extends much further into the future of humanity than any of his previous novels. It contains an alternative interpretation of the Fermi paradox: intelligent sentient life in this universe is extremely scarce. The Prefect marked a return to the Revelation space universe. Like Chasm City, it is a stand-alone novel within the Revelation space universe. It is set prior to any of the other Revelation space novels, though still 200 years after the original human settlement of the Epsilon Eridani system. It was published in the United Kingdom on April 2, 2007. House of Suns is a stand-alone novel set in the same universe as his novella Thousandth Night from the 1 Million AD anthology. It was released in the UK on April 17, 2008 and in the US on June 2, 2009. Reynolds described it as 6 million years in the future, stuff-airing clones, tensions between human and robot meta-civilizations, King Crimson jokes. Terminal World, published in March 2010, was described by Reynolds as a kind of steampunk-tinged planetary romance, set in the distant future. As with Century Reign, Reynolds has said that he does not plan any further work in the universe of Terminal World. In June 2009, Reynolds signed a new deal, worth £1 million, with his British publishers for 10 books to be published over the next 10 years. His current project is Poseidon's Children, a hard science fiction trilogy dealing with the expansion of the human species into the solar system and beyond, and the emergence of Africa as a spacefaring, technological superstate several centuries down the line over the next 11,000 years. The first book is entitled Blue Remembered Earth. The second book in the series, On the Steel Breeze, was published in September 2013. It is set around 200 years after the events of Blue Remembered Earth. The third book, titled Poseidon's Wake, was published on April 30, 2015. His Doctor Who novel Harvest of Time was published in June 2013. Awards and nominations: Reynolds's fiction has received 3 awards and several other nominations. His second novel Chasm City won the 2001 British Science Fiction Award for Best Novel. His short story Weather won the Japanese National Science Fiction Convention Seiun Award for Best Translated Short Fiction. His novels Absolution Gap and The Prefect have also been nominated for previous BSFA awards. Reynolds has been nominated for the Arthur C. Clarke Award 3 times, for his novels Revelation Space, Pushing Ice and House of Suns. In 2010, he won the Sidewise Award for Alternate History for his short story The Fixation. His novella Troika made the shortlist for the 2011 Hugo Awards. Bibliography == novels Revelation Space, Revelation Space. London, Gollancz. 2000. Chasm City. London, Gollancz, 2001. ISBN 0-575-06877-9, Redemption Arc. London, Gollancz, 2002. ISBN 0-575-06879-5, Absolution Gap. London, Gollancz, 2003. ISBN 0-575-07434-5, The Prefect. London, Gollancz, 2007, ISBN 0-575-07716-6. Poseidon's Children, Blue Remembered Earth, London, Gollancz, 2012, ISBN 0-575-08827-3, On the Steel Breeze, London, Gollancz, 2013, ISBN 0-575-09045-6, Poseidon's Wake, London, Gollancz, 2015. ISBN 978-0-575-09049-1. Other, Century Reign. London, Gollancz, 2004. ISBN 0-575-07436-1, Pushing Ice. London, Gollancz, 2005. ISBN 0-575-07438-8, House of Suns. London, Gollancz, 2008. ISBN 0-575-07717-4, Terminal World. London, Gollancz, 2010, ISBN 0-575-07718-2, Harvest of Time. BBC Books, 2013, ISBN 978-1-849-90418-6, The Medusa Chronicles. London, Gollancz, 2016, ISBN 978-1,473,210,189. Collections Diamond Dogs, Turquoise Days. London, Gollancz, 2003. ISBN 0-575-07526-0, Diamond Dogs originally published as a chapbook from PS Publishing. Reprinted in Infinities, Peter Crowther, ed. Turquoise Days originally published as a chapbook from Golden Griffin. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 20th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. And in Best of the Best Volume 2, 20 Years of the Year's Best Short Science Fiction Novels, Gardner Dozois, ed. Zyma Blue and Other Stories. San Francisco, California, Nightshade Books, 2006. ISBN 1-59780-058-9 Reprinted Zyma Blue and Other Stories. London, Gollancz, 2009. ISBN 0-575-08405-7, Enola originally published in Interzone No. 54. Digital to Analog originally published in Dreams, Paul McCauley and Kim Newman, eds, limited edition, Spray and the Queen originally published in Interzone No. 108. Reprinted in Future War, Gardner Dozois and Jack Dan, eds. And in the Space Opera Renaissance, David G. Hartwell and Catherine Kramer, eds. And posted free online at Infinity Plus, Angels of Ashes originally published in Asimov's Science Fiction. Merlin's Gun originally published in Asimov's Science Fiction. And in the Mammoth Book of Extreme Science Fiction, Mike Ashley, ed. Hideaway originally published in Interzone No. 157. The Real Story originally published in Mars Probes, Peter Crowther, ed., Everlasting originally published in Interzone No. 193. Beyond the Aquila Rift originally published in Constellations, Peter Crowther, ed. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 23rd Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. And in year's Best SF 11, David G. Hartwell and Catherine Kramer, eds. Zyma Blue originally published in Postscripts No. 4. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 23rd Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. Signal to Noise originally published in Zyma Blue and Other Stories. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 24th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. Cardiff Afterlife originally published in the reprint of Zyma Blue and Other Stories. Understanding Space and Time originally published in a limited edition of 400 copies for the Novacon 35 Sci-Fi Convention. Reprinted in Science Fiction, The Best of the Year, 2006 edition, Rich Horton, ed. And in Science Fiction, The Very Best of 2005, Jonathan Strahan, ed. Mindler's Flowers originally published in the New Space Opera, Gardner Dozois and Jonathan Strahan, eds. Galactic North. London, Gollancz, 2006. ISBN 0-575-07910-X, Great Wall of Mars originally published in Spectrum SF No. 1. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 18th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. Glacial originally published in Spectrum SF No. 5. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 19th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. And in year's Best SF 7, David G. Hartwell and Catherine Kramer, eds. Weather originally published in Galactic North, Grafenwalder's Bestiary originally published in Galactic North, Nightingale originally published in Galactic North. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 24th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. Dilation Sleep originally published in Interzone No. 39. Espion Europa originally published in Interzone No. 120. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 15th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. And posted free online at Infinity Plus, Galactic North originally published in Interzone No. 145. Reprinted in Space Soldiers, Jack Dan and Gardner Dozois, eds. And in the year's Best Science Fiction, 17th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. And in Hayakawa's SF Magazine. Deep Navigation. Framingham, Massachusetts, NESFA Press, 2010. ISBN 978-1-886778-90-0. Noordwijk Snowflakes originally published in Interzone No. 36, Birdland 6 originally published in Interzone No. 96. Reprinted in the Ant-Men of Tibet and Other Stories, David Bringle, ed. On the Udnadato originally published in Interzone No. 128, Stroboscopic originally published in Interzone No. 134. Reprinted in Dangerous Games, Gardner Dozois and Jack Dan, eds. Viper originally published in Asimov's Science Fiction, Fresco originally published in the UNESCO Courier, Feeling Rejected originally published in the journal Nature, Tiger, Burning originally published in Forbidden Planets, Peter Crowther, ed. Reprinted in Year's Best SF12, David G. Hartwell and Catherine Kramer, eds. The Sledgemaker's Daughter originally published in Interzone No. 209. Reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 25th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. Swara copyright EA originally published in Celebration, commemorating the 50th anniversary of the British Science Fiction Association, Ian Watts, ed. The Star Surgeon's Apprentice originally published in The Starry Rift, Jonathan Strahan, ed. Fury originally published in Eclipse 2, New Science Fiction and Fantasy, The Fixation originally published in a Finnish language, Hanon Basarissa a limited edition booklet of about 200 copies in tribute to Hannu Blomila in Finland. Reprinted in the Solaris Book of New Science Fiction, Volume 3, George Mann, ed., The Receivers originally published in Other Earths, Nick Jevers and J. Lake, eds. Monkey Suit originally published in Death Ray No. 20. Novellas Thousandth Night originally published in 1 million AD, Gardner Dozois, ed. Available in electronic format from Subterranean Press. The Six Directions of Space originally published in Galactic Empires, Gardner Dozois, ed. Available in electronic format from Subterranean Press. Troika originally published in Godlike Machines, Jonathan Strahan, ed. Available in electronic format from Subterranean Press. Slow Bullets. Short Fiction The Big Hello originally published in German translation in a convention program. The Monastodon Broadcasts originally published in Aberrant Dream's Eye, The Awakening, Joe Dickerson, Ernest G. Saylor and Lonnie Harper, eds. Scales originally published in The Guardian and posted free online at Lightspeed magazine. Loon and the Red Empress with Liz Williams, originally published in the 2010 Eastercon souvenir booklet. At Budokan originally published in Shine, Jetstavras, ed. Sleepover originally published in the Mammoth Book of Apocalyptic SF, Mike Ashley, eds. Ascension Day originally published in Voices from the Past, reprinted in the year's Best Science Fiction, 29th Annual Collection, Gardner Dozois, ed. The Old Man and the Martian Sea originally published in Life on Mars, Jonathan Strahan, ed. For the Ages originally published in Solaris Rising, the New Solaris Book of Science Fiction, Ian Watts, ed. The Water Thief originally published in Arc 1.1/The Future Always Wins, Sumit Palchthuri, Simon Innes, eds. Trauma Pod originally published in Armored, John Joseph Adams, ed. Vaingloria originally published in Edge of Infinity, Jonathan Strahan, ed. A Map of Mercury originally published in The Lowest Heaven, The Lobby originally published in Memorial Blues, Peter Crowther and Nick Jevers, ed. In Babelsberg originally published in Reach for Infinity, Jonathan Strahan, ed. Wrecking Party originally published in Dead Man's Hand, An Anthology of the Weird West, John Joseph Adams, ed. The Last Log of the Lacrimosa originally published in Subterranean Online. Sad Captain originally published online by the School of Physics and Astronomy, Queen Mary University of London, A Murmuration originally published in Interzone. Essays, reporting and other contributions Reynolds, Alastair. Jerry Anderson Saw the Future. Book Club. Sci-Fi Now 104, 96 €97. See also: Nightshade Books, Revelation Space Universe. References. External links, personal homepage, personal blog, Approaching Pavinus Mons by Balloon, Alastair Reynolds at the Internet Speculative Fiction Database, Alastair Reynolds Online Fiction at Free Speculative Fiction Online, Golden Griffin Press Official Site about Chapbook Turquoise Days. Interviews Interview conducted by Roger DeForest, Science Fiction Thrives in High-Tech World, interview by the BBC.